Your morning commute typically takes 25 minutes. If a 400 cubic foot dairy truck spills 2% milk on the freeway, causing you to take a detour and get stuck at a drawbridge for 20 minutes, how late will you be? Don't know? Well, good news, you don't have to, because Waze knows. With real-time traffic alerts from real Waze users, your ETA is always up to date. Waze. Download and drive today.
Let CareerBuilder help you rehire fast. Post your next job with CareerBuilder and get an application rate that's nearly 7 times higher than our competitors. CareerBuilder, we're building for you. Visit hiring.careerbuilder.com/recruit.
What's going on? You are tuned into the Cigars with Mac podcast. Today, we are going to add a part 2 to our podcast from yesterday, which is called Is White Shaming Racism? And I have a special guest on board, and we wanted to, talk about this. So, my special guest is on here. So let's go ahead and talk about it,
Okay, I was listening to part 1.
Yeah.
And I was very open-minded, because, I'm a firm believer in you can't tell other people how to feel and think.
Yeah.
So, I was very open-minded to what your guest, said. And I'll say I agree with some things he said, and I disagree with the idea. I don't know. I'm indifferent, about the idea that it's racist. I think that, no, it's not his fault, like you said, that he's middle class. It's not his fault that his kids are middle class. And most of us, that's never been, the argument or the debate or the discussion. It's to pretend as if it's not a factor in the problem. So, do I want people walking up to me, which is really happening, which is weird.
Yeah.
No one's apologized to me. But, over these last couple of weeks, I've had people just go out their way to talk to me or just, start a conversation. I'm not talking about people that's standing next to me.
Yeah.
I'm talking about people that walk across the room just to have a conversation with me, which is very weird. And I would prefer if it didn't happen. But the problem is that they don't want to acknowledge the fact that there's a privilege there. And, because work from the bottom to the top, because maybe you're poor, I know a lot of people like to say, I didn't have a privilege. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. But you were, because we know that a person without a white person without a degree, going up against a person with a degree of experience is still more likely to get the job. I've seen it happen in my own, my own life. I've seen, with the police thing, that's hard to call, right?
Yeah.
Because we're always comparing 2 different police officers and their reaction. Like, oh, see how they handled this guy over here, and you see the difference in how they handled this guy. That's a hard conversation to have, because it's never the same officer handling 2 people 2 different ways where we can judge that,
Yeah.
But I think the conversation starts is when they admit that they have a privilege, and then how are they going to help to acknowledge their privilege and work through it so that other people can come aboard, like we said, this wealth gap that we have, and so that's my problem with the statement. I even heard you talk about Candace Owens and everything, so I guess my answer is yes and no. Yes. No, it's not racist, so I guess the answer is no. But the conversation could be changed. Let's say it that way. I don't need your apology. I don't want people apologizing to me. And let's even be clear to rewind it a little bit. Like me and my niece, we were just discussing this earlier. The idea that people have this idea that my ancestors owned your ancestors, that's just not true. I mean, the average white person didn't own slaves. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a good chance that you probably were an indentured servant. You know, and the word slave comes from, you know, were originally white people anyway, because it comes from the Slavic people who were white people, you know?
Okay.
So,
that's a history lesson right there. I didn't know that. That's good history. I'm always learning something new every day.
But yeah, I'm just saying the idea that, you know, people keep saying you need to apologize. And I know with me, I can't talk for every black person, and nor do I ever try to. But for me, I just want my 40 acres, which that would come from the government. I'm not asking white people to give me anything. Yeah. They can keep the mule, or we can take the mule. I don't know what I would do with it. And also, I want the companies to pay more so than a race. You know what I'm saying? Like Chase, that's been around all these years, that's benefit from slave labor. You know, Aetna, the healthcare company that we know benefits from slave labor. And there's a list of them, you know. They're the ones that need to pay. So do I need your apology? Your apology does nothing for me, you know?
And I'm gonna tell you, if you know, it was in an interview, you know, I was telling them, I was like, look, black people really don't give a shit about y'all apologizing. We wanted to be understood and acknowledged. Stop telling us what we're seeing when we know what the fuck we're seeing. Stop telling me that I'm not seeing racism or quote unquote white privilege when I know that's what I'm seeing. And I told them, you know, well, of course you heard the interview, you know. Let me ask you, what you think about the interview? Did you think I handled it well?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it would have been, a greater conversation if, you know, because I know you're the host, you know, and so I just feel like, you know, you can drill them, but you don't want to go too far. Like, I think it's, you know, they have two opposing views, you know, views. So, like, you could be the mediator and let them, you know, that way, you know, no one, I mean, he could feel attacked, but you could just, like, mediate that, you know? True. Like, you know, I think, you know, as we talk, like I said, me and my niece watched it, listen to it together. You know, him starting off with, it's not my fault. You know, I just thought that was the most privileged statement, you know, because we never said, you know, it's your fault. We're saying, identify that you have this privilege, you know, and then let's address it. Now, do I really expect you to turn down a job because somebody else is more qualified? No, but the conversation needs to start to be had of, you know, how are we picking people? But again, the conversation has to be had. You know, how do we as black people offset that without having to ask other people to accept us? So how do we create jobs? How can we do the same thing? Because a lot of times we don't do the same thing they do. We be fair. We're fair. You know, so we get these positions and we don't necessarily just hire black people or pick the black person or the white person if they're not qualified. So we don't use these same, and I'm overgeneralizing here, we don't use these same tactics they use. So then, you know, it's never really seen in reverse.
I'm going to tell you, I think I was telling a friend of mine, he listened to the podcast, and I said, the moment he said, I was born, I can't help that, I can't pretty much help that I'm privileged, that was pretty much, I could have ended the show just on that. Because that was my point. That was my entire point because of the post. Well, he didn't post it, but he put up a photo and it was saying, you know, white shaming is literally racism. And what I was, and like I said, and my thing, I guess, when I interview people, because I had one show, what was it? I think it was called, I forget which one it was, and I had about 3 or 4 people on there. And it was a heated show, you know, I ain't gonna lie. And a lot of times I like people that kind of, like you said, I like to hear both sides of the story. I like to come at it from not necessarily, I want to come at it from a non-biased point of view, because him personally, the guy I interviewed yesterday, Ski, you know, we both served together, you know, and like I was telling him, I said, man, it's white people that I've met that their first time even seeing a black person was in the military. So I'm not negating the fact that your point of view, but what I was saying on my point of view was, man, racism is power, dude. It's about power.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, and of course we went into other things, this, that, and the third, you know, but I just feel like the conversation has to be had. And like I told him, I said, where is the white leader? Why do y'all feel the need to give us a black leader? There's no white leader. There's no de facto white leader who represents white people. You know, he was like, well, how do we have that conversation? How do we have that? I said, I don't know. I can't remember how it went, you know, but I was like, you know, we got to be able to, first and foremost, respect each other's opinions. We got to be able to do that. We got to be able to have that conversation and people can't take it personal. And then on the same end, you know, like I told him, I said, man, I used to be in the Republican Party. I say, and the thing that I would get into it with fellow black Republicans was they didn't want to acknowledge racism. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I lean more towards, you know, I don't like to refer to myself as a Republican or a Democrat.
Yeah.
I guess I could say a libertarian or nothing, an independent. You know, I know Candace Owens is very colorful, but, you know, she's actually somebody, how can I place this? I won't say admire, but I like when people stand on what they believe because you know where they stand, you know? And so she's going to push how she believes, and she's not wrong most of the time. Now, did she go too far on the George Floyd thing? Yes. Mm-hmm. I feel like, honestly, I think she's a troll. I don't think she even believes it. I think that's how she gets paid. If she could get paid to be a liberal and push those ideas, I think she would do it. You know, you know, her race plays a point in her being a black conservative that gets this platform. So she rocks what pays her. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it is what it is. I hate that she has to speak so sparingly. But I think we need people like her in our race. If people hate her, it's because I feel like I'm judged, you know. I won't say I'm pro-Trump, but I'm more so towards his side than I am the other. And, you know, being called a coon or, like, you know, acting like I have a disease because, you know, I take facts for facts and I don't go off of this emotional stuff people do. And, you know, a lot of people, it's like if you're not a Democrat, you're speaking against them. Mm. And so I think it's a lot of things, even with this whole talk of privilege, that we have to check within ourselves because we got to stop begging other people to accept us and we just have to build ourselves. It's like, you know, I don't house and you have the same rules I have, but yet we keep going into their job and their profession saying you're not treating me fair. Well, that's how it was made. So like the question becomes, how do we create our own equality and stop begging them for it? Because like, why would I give up my privilege to you? Why would I, if I know that I'm going to get the job first because you know this person can relate to me better, why would I stand against myself? That doesn't even make sense. And because it's not fair. But you know, it's a lot of things that's not fair in life. So it's like if we know that's the playing field that we're leveraging, then how can we create our own? Where, like I always say, you know, integration happens too fast. Mm-hmm. Like if we could have been able, you know, which is debatable, but if we could have been able to build our own, you know, first, then it could have been negotiation. You know, it could have been okay. Well, Kaepernick wasn't allowed to kneel on your field, but we have our own football field, so he can come kneel over here. You know, but it's like we're asking. But we don't have that other option, so we have to keep going to them, begging them to treat for equality and treat us right. And notice that there's racism, and it's an uncomfortable subject for me. I had the whole, like you said, I've never had a bad experience with police officers, but I know police brutality exists. I do understand that more white men are killed than black people by police. But you say we're only 13% of the population, so we shouldn't even be close, you know?
We shouldn't be.
Even on the fact that white men are killed more than black people, the media turned this into a race story, you know? The issue is police brutality. I don't know how that became a black and white issue. So the issue is, you know, police officers are killing American citizens, and they're not even taught to disarm. They're taught to kill shots. They're not even taught the correct regulation. They're not held accountable to American citizens. It doesn't matter what color George Floyd is, but yes, he is black. But it doesn't matter what color he is. He's an American citizen. We can all agree on that. And he was killed wrongfully. So if an American citizen was killed wrongfully, it becomes everybody's problem. When we make it a black man was killed by a white officer, it gives some people the ability to say, well, I'm going to sit this one out. Because the news continues to push a narrative as if cops are only killing black people. And that's just not true. Not saying they're not killing black people, but I've seen a lot of tape of them just killing, all races. And the problem is the problem is they're killing black people. But the problem is they're killing American citizens. And they need to be handled. It needs to be taken care of. And they need to be accountable for whatever they do. But we let the conversation be hijacked, by the media. Mm-hmm. And like he talked about the social media thing, about, seeing that, they need to apologize. Like you said, we don't care about an apology. But at the end of the day, you can't go off social media. Like, you look on social media, you would think black women and black men hate each other. If you look at social media, you would think, almost all these people are racist. But when you go out into the real world, at least me, that's not what my world looks like. Like, I know a million black men that love black women. Mm-hmm. I know a million white men that love black women. I know black and white people that get along every day and that speak and help you in the store. So it's like, when you get on social media, that's the extreme lifestyle that everybody likes to portray. But when you get out in the world, to a certain extent, that's not what I see, And so it's dangerous to judge, what you see on social media, compared to what you see in real life. Now, racism exists, definitely. But, you can't go by social media, because I know you say, oh, well, that's just their true feelings that's coming out on social media, But I just look at it as, I don't need friends, and I pick my friends very selectively, the people I do call friends. Mm. So it doesn't bother me to think that when you go home, you might speak negatively of me, because when I go home, I might speak negatively of you. As long as you respect me when I'm in your face, I mean, that's all I really care about, because I can't control you. I can't make you feel, I can't, like, what are we fighting for, I guess, exactly? Like, I can't make anybody feel some type of way about me. Just don't be disrespectful in my face.
Just don't disrespect me. That's right. And I feel, at least for my particular platform, I feel like interviews like that is starting a conversation, because the thing about it, like I told him, I'm like, I have seen videos of white people kissing black people on the feet. I said, and my thing is, I think some of that is what I would call, white guilt. And again, believe it or not, majority of our people don't give two shits about that. I mean, you can do that, but like I always say, and a brother of mine, we always say, all we want is justice. We want, and of course, I understand people, because I've been a business owner before. And unfortunately in business, it's just not going to be fair. It's not, and that's why, that's why we have laws and regulations. But at the end of the day, people are not really following that. They're not following, quote unquote, affirmative action, quote unquote, equality. They're just not, and
right.
I guess, like I said, like I was telling him, I'm like, look, I see your point of view, but more people need to be like, look here, like I told him, I said, the George Floyd was just a straw that broke the camel's back, because that's been going on. I think now that festered up, and that's what caused all this rioting and things like that, And like I was telling him, I said my whole thing with the Republican Party was, believe it or not, I could have these discussions with white Republicans, and we could talk it out, and it was no big deal. They saw my point of view, I saw their point of view. I say, but when it came down to fellow black conservatives, it was like, what is racism? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, they just don't want to be isolated. So they're in a party where they're the minority, and they don't want to feel like, well, it's me. My thing is, I don't ever say what is racism because I know it exists. What I don't like to do is be a victim. So I don't want you to ever say like, oh, you're not going to have the same privileges I had. We can't do this, we can't do that. I don't speak like that.
That's right.
So it's hard for me to have these race conversations because I don't like to put myself as the person at the bottom. I say, they won't hire me over here. Number one, I don't want to work there if you don't like people like me, because that means I'm going to get hired and I get up, get promoted, So, you just done me a favor. Number two, all white people aren't like that. And there are a lot of black managers, a lot of black CEOs. So I'm going to go find a company or start my own company to go work for. So I guess it's black conservatives, they're one of few, and they're already, ostracized by the black community. So the people that they feel allegiance with, they don't want to isolate themselves and say, you're racist towards me. And plus, I don't want to give another person that type of power over me to say that, your power is holding me back. Like, no. And I'm not, I just feel like it's a dangerous conversation to have because we keep talking about what's keeping us back instead of like finding the way around. It's like, okay, like the racism was here for our great granddaddies too, but they own land, they had farms, they built businesses, and we can only say that for so long. They won't give us loans. There's too many people who have loans. We don't. Like with the PPP, with the businesses, well, I know everybody was just out of that, but a lot of black businesses didn't even apply, or a lot of them didn't have their paperwork in place. And, and then you can say, well, we're first generation business owners, we're learning as we go. I get that. But like, don't let that stop you. Like, keep going. Now, let's get our paperwork together. Let's work together. Let's do what we need to do. Let's stop saying, this is what's holding us back. Another thing too is, just talking to different people will help you like a world, because like you said, we don't know certain things, and if you don't know it, you don't know to ask it because you didn't know it exists, right? But once you a lot of things that I learned in my business, were for older white men. They would come in and bring their daughter to my kids' spot, and we would just talk. And it's things that I didn't even know existed. They was like, you need to do this, that, and this. And it's like the conversations. We just need to have the conversation. I don't care when you go home that you might call me an N-word or whatever. You ain't gonna say it to my face. But I'm saying, I don't care when you go home that you might say that you might not like black people. That doesn't shock me, because you don't know what's being said in my household. But, if we can just respect each other and share our knowledge and, and just do what we need to do. Because at the end of the day, my personal belief on this is that this race thing is used so that we won't revolt as a nation. Like, the problem is not black people or white people. The problem is the 1% that holds most of the wealth, and the rest of us are just fighting for these little crumbs. So if they keep us divided and fighting against each other, we'll forget that. And I'll think it's the white man's fault, and the white man say, well, they just need to pull themselves up, When we all struggle, we're all slaves to this system. So we could, work together and, they revolt,
That's why I told him.
And I'm not saying don't have black friends, huh?
No, I was saying, I didn't mean to cut you off. That's why I told him last night, I don't believe in that word white supremacy. I don't believe nobody's supreme over me. I don't use that word. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I mean, they are, they are supreme, and so, I guess it doesn't matter what they call themselves, because that's a title they gave themselves. What I'm saying? We're supreme. Well, it doesn't matter what they call themselves. I mean, are there people out there that hate? They probably don't even know why they hate other races, and they probably haven't been exposed. That's the biggest thing. Like, we all live in our bubble, and so we haven't been. A lot of us haven't been exposed to each other, and so, we go based off what we see on TV and what we heard happen to somebody else, and I'm not saying people don't have racist situations, because, I'm black, I've had it happen to me too. Yeah. But, at the end of the day, I grew up in the South. My mom, she's probably going to be mad if I say this, but she never hears it. But, my mom was racist growing up. So I grew up in a household where it was like, I'm going to fool with the white people, all this stuff. So normally, because, I'm her child, I grew up with a lot of her beliefs. I would say as late as working with children to change their mind, because it's hard to hate. I never hated anybody. I respected everybody, but it's hard to even be mean to a kid. You know what I'm saying? And you start to feel bad. You feel bad that you have these ideas about this group of people that he has nothing to do with how I feel. And then you just have your natural biases. And then when I worked in a mixed environment, I'm not going to say I forgot that some of my coworkers were white, because I didn't, but it was just kind of like they just became people to me. Like, you just go to work and, like, there's just a group of people there. Like, you don't think, like, oh, these are the black people here, here are the white people here, da-da-da. It was just people, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, we don't spend, and we had those hard conversations at work, and people didn't get offended, you know, when we had, like I remember this one guy I worked with, and he was telling me, you know, he has a black girlfriend now, but he was just saying how he grew up, you know, his family didn't like black people. Yeah. And his mom told him, like, don't run away from me because you might get caught and chopped up by a pack of N-words. And so, right? Yeah. And so I said, that's a white person stuff. If we catch you, we might shoot you, but we're not going to chop you up. And he's like, good point. That's right. It's like, we could have these conversations. We could have, you know, these are black crimes, these are white crimes. You know, we could have, like, the prejudice that, you know, I have or he had. We could have these conversations, not be offended, and work through them and be like, you know, you're going to have your views, I'm going to have my views, but we respect each other, you know? And, you know, that's the most you can ask for. And then we have to just build our own, you know? We can't beg people to accept us, because how can you legislate, you know, make laws to make somebody like, because they can always say, I didn't hire her because of X, Y, Z. I mean, there's no way a law is going to ever protect you. So build your own and stop digging other people to give you a leg up. And just learn from people, you know? That's how I feel. I just hate to hear people say, they won't let, or like when you say, well, we need to build a new Black Wall Street. Oh, they'll just burn it down. Okay, we're going to have insurance this time, and we own guns too. Let's go. Let's get it done.
Let me ask you this. One of the debates that was going on his timeline, well, not necessarily a debate, but one of the things that was talked about was, can a black person be racist? Answer that for me. In your opinion, do you think a black person can be racist also?
Can a black person be racist? Mm-hmm. I say yes. I say a black person can be racist. And the reason why, like I said, the definition of it, using your power, you know, I mean, to say no is to say black people don't have power. And even if we don't have power, you know, maybe we don't have a lot of people that can hire and keep white people. But, like, if we decided as a race that, hey, I'm not going to support Walmart anymore, I'm going to take my dollar, that's power. So we can say, well, they own by white people, I'm not going to support it anymore, let me remove my dollar. That's taking our power and using it against another race. But, I mean, we could possibly, you know, we could be racist, you know? Mm. And so, I mean, and I think a lot of us are. It's just that it's more tolerated. You know, it's more tolerated because we say we're not the majority, we're not the, you know, the ruling class, I guess. So it's just tolerated more. So we can say jokes, we can say things that's not going to be seen as racist because, you know, just like gay people, like gay men, like that's really when I started thinking about both sides of things. Is a gay person accused me of hate speech, and so I don't know, somewhere in my mind I said, this is just what it feels like to be white. Like I always have like I don't have anything against gay people. I don't think about them regularly. You know, it's just not a part of my everyday life. You know, and so when he accused me of being, you know, speaking hate speech, I was like, this must be what it's like to be not a racist white person, but like a white person whose baby's not, you know, white and not racist, but you know, it's not really just for black. You know, they just exist. They're just here. You know, and so this is just how it feels because they can't relate because you're like, I don't care. You know, no one ever said y'all didn't matter, and you know, I'm always been accused or something. And all I said was, Melinda Gates looks like a man, and he said that was hate speech. And so, you know, it just made me look at it outside of, you know, who I am, like, you know, like how irritating that could be when you're not being, you know, like I felt like I wasn't spewing hate speech, but he saw this and I can't see his point of view because I'm not him. And I said, well, maybe this is how they feel about us. Like they can't see our point of view because they haven't lived our life. And, you know, we see things as, oh, this is racist.
All the last-minute gifts are on sale at Gap Factory and GapFactory.com. Get 60% off almost everything. Shop new doorbusters, including gifts from $7, socks from $2, tees from $8, and more. Find it all at Gap Factory or GapFactory.com through December 24th. Cozy up for the holidays with 60% off everything at Banana Republic Factory, including soft sweaters, comfy pajamas, must-have gifts, and more from $9.99. Find your nearest store now, only at Banana Republic Factory.
That doesn't excuse it. Doesn't mean that they don't have to get educated. But, you know, they just been them their whole life. Maybe they can't understand because I couldn't understand how my statement was hate, you know?
Yeah. I think, like you said, a lot of us have crazy views behind closed doors at our home. And
Yeah.
And I believe if everybody had a microphone to the conversations they had at home, everybody would be looked at crazy. Like, what? I didn't know you felt like that about white people. I didn't know you felt the way about black people. And I mean, I think one of the things what my boy was talking about was like, you know, he's like, you know, and some I've definitely could agree with is the term African American. Why do we have to use that term?
You can blame Jesse Jackson for that. Okay, we didn't want it. Also,
why can't we just be like Melissa? Why can't we just be American?
We're not from Africa, like you said. We're not even from Africa.
We're not even.
And, you know, I'm gonna take it a step further.
Yeah.
And say that, you know, and I know because me and my friend was having this conversation this morning, so I know black people are gonna like this. But you know, I've been researching the fact that, you know, we're not even from the slave ships that they say we're from. Like, we were already here, and we're indigenous to this land. And that's the fight to be fought is, you know, give me my land back. Let's make America great again and give me my land back, okay? We are the Native American, whatever you want to call it. We're the Aboriginals. Like, we were here already. Yeah. And so to call us African is to do a paper genocide, to misplace us. Like, none of us, I'm not going to say we haven't been African. We might have visited. But most of us are not from Africa. Most of us don't even have, you know, African descendants. You know, when you talk to your grandparents, what do they say? They don't tell you about Africa. My grandparents didn't tell me about Africa. They talked about being native to this land. But we allowed other people to control our narrative and tell us that, you know, we came here off a slave ship where they had thousands of people laying on top of each other for months at a time and they survived. Come on now. Tell me something else. Tell me something believable. Now, I'm not saying that some people didn't come here on the slave ship. I'm just going to say most of us did. Most of us is research. You know, you might dispute that. I don't know. But most of us were probably already here. And that's the big game. They're trying to fool us and get us on this whole African pride. So that's why they're wearing those African shawls and stuff. And, you know, they're trying to make us displace us from our land. Like, we want our land back. If I'm going to burn stuff down, it ain't going to be for Black Lives Matter. It's going to be because I want my land back, you know. Give me my land. Like, stop trying to sell me something that, you know, you stole from my ancestors.
Now, one of the things he was telling me about, and I went and looked it up, and he was right, that the Black Lives Matter, people donating to Black Lives Matter, that money's not going to help black people. It's actually going to Democratic politicians.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about...
And on top of that...
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you good.
I was saying on top of that, I heard you talk about riots and stuff. Like, for the most part, like, all the riots are peaceful. And when you hear about people burning down buildings, because, like, the news has a way to hype stuff up, right?
Yeah.
So when you hear about people burning down buildings, like, okay, so if you listen to when Trump talked about so everybody was like, oh, he said if the riots don't stop, you know, the guns will start or whatever. So I don't know the history behind that. I heard it was from a racist statement. So let me just go ahead and say that and put that out. I don't know the history behind that saying. So I don't know if it came from a racist person or not. But what I do know is I sat and I listened to the governor's meeting when he talked to all the governors. And what he said, and what I actually heard him say was that most of the protesters were peaceful, but the movement was being hijacked. Who was the movement being hijacked by? Antifa. So this is like a Democratic, okay, we're not even playing the Democrat-Republican game. I don't know who they are. But it's a group of people who are coming and they're paying people to burn down buildings. They're paying people to start like chaos. The Black Lives Matter guy, the original guy that, you know, well, I know he didn't start it because they hijacked it, but it was a black guy that was like the spokesperson the first time, you know, they started this Black Lives movement or whatever. Mm-hmm. They hacked his text messages. The whole anonymous guy, they hacked his text messages, and in his text messages, he was purposely riling up the crowd. He was trying to get martial law declared so President Obama wouldn't have to leave office. And it's plain as day. Like, you can go find this. I didn't make this up. So we know that this movement is not a genuine movement. Not saying that the people out there protesting are ungenuine, because of course they are. But I'm saying there are other people out there with other agendas, mm-hmm. and they're using this movement to push their movement, to push what they want to happen. And then when it comes to the TV, they're just showing buildings being burned, people being, you know, over the top. Those are paid actors. You know, these people are being paid. They're being bussed in. You know, mm-hmm. So I'm not gonna say I'm not with Black Lives Matter. I mean, we gotta look at the term black itself and what it means. But even above that, it's just that that's not our movement. Like, we need to create our own movement, and our way to correct it, in my opinion, is financially. Like, let's stop feeding the beast. Like, let's leave Amazon alone. Let's leave Walmart and Target alone. Because when they shut down again, this coronavirus, guess who's gonna get to stay open? All these big brands,
Yeah.
So let's stop feeding the beast. Let's shop local. Let's shop black. Let's support each other. Let's circulate our dollar. Let's build our community. Let's do what we can do. It doesn't make sense to burn down the police station because, the police station is going to be rebuilt with tax dollars that we pay. So how does that make sense,
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you going down, burning down businesses that have insurance. So you just burn down this business who was already struggling through the COVID. You burn it down. Now they get to file their insurance and be bigger and better. So you did them a favor. So it's like, let's think about what we do and let's be strategic. I understand people are tired. People are, frustrated. But, let's organize and let's execute, And that's just how I feel about it. But I know it's more than one way to skin a cat.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's just how I feel.
What do you feel about, I want your honest opinion. What is your thoughts on what do we have to do to build a true black economy?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would say, the start is a migration. I think we should pick a city and, a large, I don't think we can be that powerful all spread out over the country, But, just to give an example, like we have a small city, even Monroe could work. Like if a lot of black people would move to Monroe, which is already a lot of black people because it's a majority black city, so a lot of black people move to Monroe. And then we say as a group, that we're not gonna support, none, slowly say, okay, let's put these people in the hair business out and let's have our own, or let's coexist. At least we should be a player in the market. You know what I'm saying? If there's gonna be Asian and all these other stores, there should at least be a black hair store that we should have loyalty to. But it's like, let's move to a small town, like in numbers. Let's create a black district of businesses. Then let's elect somebody that our money back, right? Because everybody has a price. So if you're not trying to back them financially, that means somebody else will. So that's why we don't have anybody in Washington fighting for us. We don't feel like we have to pay for it. We're going to have to pay the police to protect us. We're going to have to pay the people we put in office, and we have to back them with our dollars. And then you just take that city and duplicate it, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And I think that's how we could create, in my opinion, how we could create, this black, economy.
So do you think, and one of the things, I know one of the major cities by you and me right now is DeSoto, Texas.
Mm-hmm. Talking about black cities? Yeah,
black cities, And I can remember, and like I said, I moved to Texas when I was 5 years old, and I had, prior to moving to Texas, the only time I saw white people was like teachers I went to MLK. And anyway, when I moved to Texas, it was a major culture shock for me. And fast forward, when I got older, and I'll never forget, Lancaster, Texas. Of course, it's a little different now, but Lancaster, Texas, when I visited there, it was like and it still is. Don't get me wrong. It was more of a. I had never, put it this way, Melissa. I had never seen black people with money before in my life. I didn't even know that even existed. Really? Yes, I did not know that it existed. And I could remember when DeSoto, Texas was like it was a lot of land. It was a lot of land, and it was a lot of, but
it's real pretty now.
It's done grew so much more. And I'm telling you, DeSoto, Texas, I had never seen black people with money. I didn't know it existed. Mm-hmm. So that's one city.
TV tells us that we're struggling, huh?
Yeah. I'm telling you, I didn't know that blew my mind to see black folks with money, 2-parent household. Because I came from a single parent household. I had never seen that. I never knew that. I just didn't know it existed, you know. So one of the things, I'm gonna give you my opinion, what I think we can do. I think what you said is a good idea. But I think what we're gonna have to do is, first of all, we gotta narrow down what city do we want to have first. And I think DeSoto's one. It's because we're right in the middle of a major metro. We are in a metropolitan area, DFW Metroplex, and I think that'll be a great start because it's already thriving. DeSoto, Texas is already thriving. It's already there. All we can do is build upon it. And I think what's going to have to happen is and my thing is, as a people, what we got to understand is we all are not going to agree on the same thing.
Right.
We all not going to believe in the same God. We all not going to believe in the same political affiliation. But what we got to but what we got to agree on is that we want a thriving black community. We gotta we gotta come to that. We gotta agree to that, you know. And I think that's where it starts at. And I think what we mess up as a people is we get thrown off by religion and politics and this, that, and the third, you know. And I think that is what it's gonna take. That was a good idea that you shot right there, you know, because like I said before, a lot of black people don't even know that exists. Because if I didn't know it existed, who else doesn't know that exists?
Yeah.
You know?
Teaching, I know for sure they don't know it exists because, you know, I was told by kids that I wasn't as smart as the white teachers, and I know what they got. They come up with that from nowhere. Like, their parents are probably saying that at home.
Yeah.
Or even like with my Hispanic students, I remember it just hurt my little heart when I was asking him what did he want to be when he graduated. He's like, Miss, look at me. You know I ain't going to be nothing. I'm going to end up in jail. He's like, that's all Mexicans do. And I was like, no. But they've hijacked our history. They only teach theirs. And our kids feel like, you know, we're not the doctors. We're not the, you know, the inventors. We didn't have anything to do with this country being built besides being a slave. When I say prisoner of war. But, you know.
Yeah. Because I don't know if you think like this, but I refuse to believe that that's all we were was slaves. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe that only thing we contributed to this country was being a slave and free labor. I believe we done more. I believe there's more history.
Well, they've written the history book and they purposely left us out. Like, so I guess it can be argued whether or not this is true, you know. Mm-hmm. But if you research Lincoln, right? Mm-hmm. Lincoln, of course, Lincoln's mom could have been black, right? I don't want to say it is or it isn't, but you know, when he was running, they talked about him being half monkey and all this stuff. And yet, this, you know, we still celebrate President Obama as the first, you know, black. There are like 6 presidents that possibly were, you know, had black. Mm-hmm. You know, because President Obama wasn't all the way black. And when you look at 12 Years a Slave, or you look at these movies, they're basically trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you that, you know, this story that they've been telling us is not accurate. You know, they purposely left us out of the history book. They purposely manipulated the slave story to make it seem like, you know, we were right over here on these slave ships. You know, we were, you know, we had to think about when. I'm sorry, my daughter and my nephew just came outside. But
oh, you good?
They think about after we first, you know, as they say, slavery was first free. You know, there were black people in Congress. You know, we owned so much land. We had our own businesses. Like, you know, it's like something's missing from the story they're not telling. You know, mm-hmm. I don't want to just go into all my ideas of how it went because that's, you know, I don't have the proof yet to back it up. But, you know, from what I've been reading, I've been looking, like they're lying about this story, and they're lying for a reason. But and so to tell kids that, you know, your descendants were slaves and we let you free and we own you, like, that's powerful for them, you know. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, you know, there might be some of them that were slaves too. And think about how many so-called, what we call black people who own slaves. They don't talk about that, you know? They talk about it, they hit and miss it, but they don't say, how were they able to own slaves? So these people were free, why were they free? You know, like they don't bring those questions up. They just hit it and miss it and keep it going just to say, well, you own slaves too. Well, let's look at the bigger picture. So I just think it's powerful of how they want to show us roots in all these slave movies. But they don't want to teach us, you know, about John Hayne, you know, about, you know, all these other, you know, presidents that could have possibly been half black. They just conveniently leave it out, you know. So we have to change the narrative. We have to teach our kids. We have to talk to our elders. We got to let them tell you, what did your grandparents say? Where were they from? You know, and I feel like maybe I'm getting off subject, but it just irritates me because
why do you think my bad, go ahead.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
I want to say, why do you think a lot of us don't know our history? Why don't you think we don't know our genealogy? Why? I mean, because like you said, if we did our genealogy, some of us, I'm in agreement with you, probably the majority of us were indigenous to this land, our ancestors, and we don't even know that.
Well, I think the reason we don't is because we take their word for gold. When I say the people who wrote these history books, we took their word for gold, and so we felt like we were learning by learning what they wrote. Yeah. And I guess just like we say now, like, what would be the reason they would lie, Chloe? What would be the reason they would lie? You know, what's the purposes? And that's, you know, I didn't think to challenge some of the things that I was told as a kid, because when you teach people something young, they just accept it as truth, you know? Mm-hmm. And so until I got older and I started questioning things and looking for stuff, and now we have access to the internet, like, we ignored the fact that our grandparents told us, you know, we have Indian in the family. Like, we even turned it into a joke. Everybody got Indian in their family, because we thought Indian of people that we see on TV, you know, the Asian descendants. Mm. We looked at them as the Indians. So, like, our grandparents weren't telling us that we have Indian in our family, and that, you know, the Asian descendants that we call, you know, Native Americans, or the $5 Indians, that were white people that fought their way on the list. They weren't talking about them. They were talking about the black natives, the black Indians, you know? Mm-hmm. And we let somebody else come and tell us that's a lie. And we took it, you know? And we just took what they said. We came over here on a slave ship. Now, some people did, but I'm just saying majority of us didn't. Because I looked this up this morning because I was arguing with one of my friends. So they say 12 million people came over on the slave ship. And of those 12 million, only 10 million survived. Of those 10 million, only 388,000 actually came to North America. So, and we know that they said they stopped bringing women over because by the time they got here on that ride, you know, they were sterile. So who did these black African men, you know, mate with? How did it become millions of people to, you know? And no one can answer that question. Well, the truth is, the numbers are grossly, you know, overrated. That the slave trade happened in reverse. You know, like, they came here, they shipped us out to Liberia, and they came back, and that's why the Africans were so easily, you know, putting this group of people out, because these people didn't belong with the rest. And all this stuff kind of adds up. If you look at it, like, if you look at small sections of, like, how they say the bone structure of some of the people in Egypt didn't match up with other people, it's because some of these people were, you know, the slave trade, as I believe, happened in reverse. But, you know, it's just something you can look at. Like, if you look at small pieces of history, like, they're not going to straight out come and tell you. But if you go study this part, and then go study that part, and then go study this part, it's kind of like it'll all start adding up. Like, that's the story. That's what's going on. You know, or even if you look at, like, when I went to Trinidad, and what do Trinidadian people call themselves? And I mean, my friend couldn't answer why they call themselves West Indians, but they call themselves West Indians. So I wonder where that came from. And then when you go to Carnival, what do they have on? They have on these big feathers. You know, they look like, you know, traditional native attire. Yeah. Where did that come from? You know?
Where did it come from, yeah.
So it's like, we just let go of our history because somebody else told us it was incorrectly, and we adopted what somebody told us. Now, I'm not saying I'm 100% correct. I still have a lot of learning to do. But what I know is what they told us is incorrect, and that it's our job to figure it out. And we can't go take a DNA test because they're not going to tell us the truth, you know? Mm-hmm. They're using that for other reasons, that DNA. And they tell you on the website it's like 0.001% accurate. So, like, that's not the way. You're going to have to go pick. You got to talk to your grandparents. You're going to have to go find out where they're from, find out what tribe lives there. You're going to have to go pull your records. You're going to have to go look, you're going to have to go look it up yourself. You're not going to be able to get your cheek swabbed and find out, you may be able to find your direct, descendant. But if you're trying to really, really find out where you're from, you're gonna have to go research it yourself.
Because I think about it, I got this German Shepherd. I got her last year. And that German Shepherd, and I just recently got her papers in from the Czech Republic. Without her papers, she's worthless to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can literally trace her genealogy back to the very first German Shepherd. That's how important history is and lineage is.
Right.
And I don't know why we cannot trace our lineage back.
We can't. We just have to do it. Like, it's not a way we're going to be able to do it from Google. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to have to get out and go to the find court records, go to the library. We're going to have to get up and go do it, Like I said, we're going to have to talk to our parents. I know a lot of our parents have passed, but I'm pretty sure you know where they're from, and your grandparents' name, and then you can find their grandparents' name. That's how we're going to have to do it. We just going to have to, and I'm not going to believe that y'all went up, these people went to Africa and got all these people, so they say, they went to Africa and got all these people, and they don't have a record of it. Like, I'm not going to believe somebody entrusted a group of people to go get a group of people, and they didn't want them to have a record. How many people they brought, how tall they were, they have a record of people, they have records. Like, I'm not going to believe that there are no records.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to know where the slave ships, everybody has answers to that.
You say you want to know what now?
But where are these slave ships? Everything else has survived, so we can't find slave ships,
I mean, they had insurance on the slaves. So, I mean...
So that should be records of the slaves.
It should be records of the slaves. That's right. They got insurance, man. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know. I'm glad we had this discussion. I actually got to get ready to go to work now. But I wanted to...
I'm glad we had this discussion. I know I got off subject.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. This is what it's about. Because I understand your point of view, I was curious as to what you gonna say. I'm like, ooh, I wonder what she gonna say. But like I said, I didn't know you. I didn't know you felt that way. And like I said, I'm glad to know. And my whole thing is.
Can I just say one more thing before we go?
No, go ahead. You good? You good?
This last thing I'm gonna say.
I'm working. Melissa, I work from home. You good? So I can just walk in the office.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. You good? Take your time.
Okay. I just want to say that, to conclude, the title of is what is it? White. What is it called? White.
Is white shame? Is white shaming rape? Is white shaming racism?
Is white shaming racism? At the end of the day, to me, my daughter's like, can y'all be quiet for a second, please? I'm sorry, we can edit this out. Right?
You all right? You could.
Okay. So is white shaming racist? No. Okay. Should we stop, telling them to apologize or even identify? I think it's time to get past, how long we gonna stay here? Yeah. I just feel like, now is the time. Let's self-reflect. Let's stop asking other people what can they do to make the situation better, and let's figure out how we can make the situation better. Even with the police, let's create our own neighborhoods, let's police our own neighborhoods. And let's get a lawyer on because if they know they can be sued, if they know we have the money, they're not gonna pull a lot of this stuff, So it's like let's bulk up our community because they are taking advantage of poor neighborhoods and people that they know that can't fight back. So let's not be that neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's all I got to say. Let's take care of the people that can't take care of themselves, and let's stop, let's go out to chase. Because we ain't gonna get no money from Karen and and John. They're not gonna pay us. So
now,
we can go out to chase.
I'm gonna run this by you. Me and my boy, we're gonna do a podcast tonight, and I would love for you to come on. The title of this podcast is gonna be we was talking about he's an entrepreneur, and we was talking about fuck you money, and we wanna talk about what is fuck you money, F you money. And I would love for you to be a part of that. If you busy, I understand, but we're gonna do it tonight at 10 o'clock.
What time are y'all doing it?
10 o'clock tonight.
10? Oh yeah, I'll be available by 10.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go on end this podcast. I'm glad you came on. Like I said, we're gonna do a podcast tonight. I'm gonna call you on this phone, and we're gonna handle it from there.
Okay.
Thank you for coming on.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you later.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
There you have it, folks. Part 2. 2 is white shaming racist. That's my good friend Melissa. I'm glad that she gave her take on it. I enjoy good dialogue, good conversation. So and that's what it's about, man. I'm not here to judge anyone negatively. I like to hear everybody's opinion, and we all have good points to bring out, and we all have a voice that need to be heard. And on that note, I'm gonna end this podcast, and everybody have a good night. Everybody have a good rest of your day. Peace.
You're making grilled cheese tonight. The store with the really, really good cheese closes at 7. If it's 12.1 miles away and work ends at 5:45 but rush hour picks up around 6:15, when's the latest you can leave for cheese? Don't know? Not to worry. Waze knows. Take a look at the traffic forecast and plan your drive ahead of time. Waze. Download and drive today. You're making grilled cheese tonight. The store with the really, really good cheese closes at 7. If it's 12.1 miles away and work ends at 5:45 but rush hour picks up around 6:15, when's the latest you can leave for cheese? Don't know? Not to worry. Waze knows. Take a look at the traffic forecast and plan your drive ahead of time. Waze. Download and drive today.